Imagine you're home alone and you hear childish laughter coming from upstairs. Or maybe you see a shadow watching you from a window. Maybe the phone rings and somebody on the other end tells you that they're trapped inside your house. If these sound like the kind of stories that would give you nightmares, then I strongly suggest you stop watching now. Otherwise, grab a snack, dim the lights, and prepare for a feast of grim and grisly content. I'm your host, Severed Soul. It was a freezing winter evening and I was home alone, nestled in my blanket on the couch. My family had gone to visit relatives for the holiday, leaving me alone to enjoy some peace and quiet. As I flipped through the channels, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The house was unusually silent, with only the occasional crackle of the heating system. I glanced out of the window, and that's when I saw it, a dark shadow moving across the yard. I squinted, trying to make sense of it, but within seconds the figure was gone. Trying to shake off the feeling of unease, I turned my attention back to the TV. Only a few minutes later, I felt a chill sweep through the room, and my gaze was drawn back to the window. This time, I saw a clearer shape. A dark figure standing directly outside the window, staring at me. My heart raced as I realised it bore an uncanny resemblance to my own reflection. But its eyes were hollow, and a sinister grin stretched across its face. Fighting the urge to scream, I bolted to the front door. But when I reached it, the figure once again disappeared. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit me like a slap in the face. I looked around, but there was nobody there. I hurried back inside, locking the door behind me, feeling the weight of dread pulling at my chest. The rest of that night was absolutely agonizing. I could hear whispers echoing through the halls, and no matter how much I tried to convince myself it was only the wind, deep down, I knew it wasn't. I spent the rest of the night curled up on the couch, that shadow lurking in the corners of my mind. When my family returned the very next day, I told them what had happened, but they just laughed it off. Still, I could feel that shadow watching, waiting, and I knew I would never be home alone again. It was a stormy night, and I was cozied up on the sofa. The rain was pounding against the windows. My family had gone out for the evening, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a stack of horror movies. Just as I started to settle down with a snack, my phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen, and against my better judgment, I answered it.
Help me,
A voice whispered, weak and trembling. My skin crawled. "Who is this?" I asked. But the line went dead. I sat there in shock. My heart was absolutely pounding in my chest. Was this a prank? I tried to shake it off, but the unease settled in my gut. Moments later, the phone rang again, and again I answered. My voice was shaking. This time, the voice on the other end was clearer, more frantic. "I'm trapped inside your house. Please help me." Panic flooded my senses. I could feel tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I jumped up and started searching the house, calling out, but there was absolutely no response. I tried to call the police, but my phone wouldn't connect. Frustrated, I set the phone down and checked the windows, peering outside into the torrential rain. Just then, I heard a soft tapping noise coming from the basement door. My heart thudded loudly in my chest as I made my way towards the noise. I stood at the basement door, my hand hovering over the doorknob. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice trembling. Just then, the tapping stopped, and in that moment, again, my phone buzzed. I answered, breathless. "Who are you?" I demanded. Again, the voice came through like a whisper. "It's you. You need to let me out." A chill shot down my spine and I stumbled backwards, dropping the phone. I ran back upstairs, slamming my door shut and locking it behind me. I hid under my bed, and as I closed my eyes, there were 3 loud thuds on my bedroom door. The whispers followed me, taunting me, and I spent the rest of the night huddled underneath my bed, praying the morning would come quickly. Not long after this incident, I learned of a tragic accident that had taken place inside my house decades ago. This was when I realised that I wasn't alone after all. Now, every time I hear my phone ring, I hesitate, knowing that some calls are better left unanswered. When I was a kid, I stumbled upon an old doll in my grandmother's attic. It was dusty, with a cracked porcelain face and scruffy hair that looked like it hadn't been brushed in decades. However, despite its creepy appearance, I felt an inexplicable pull towards it. I decided to bring it home, thinking it would be a neat addition to my collection. That night, I placed the doll on my bedside table, its eyes watching me as I drifted off to sleep. Around midnight, I was awoken to a soft, haunting melody drifting around my room. Initially, I thought it was just a dream, but as I opened my eyes, the music grew louder. I turned on my lamp, and to my absolute horror, the doll's head was now tilted as if it was listening to the music. Freaked out, I grabbed the doll and tossed it back in the attic box, slamming the lid shut. I returned to bed, but the music continued. Faint, yet insistent. I covered my ears, but that haunting melody echoed in my mind. The next morning, when I opened my eyes, that doll was back on my nightstand. Its eyes glimmering as if it had a life of its own. Desperate to get rid of the thing, I threw it at the back of my wardrobe and locked the door. But every night, I would hear that haunting melody, growing louder and louder each time. One evening, I'd had enough, and I decided to confront it. I took the doll out and held it tightly, demanding to know why it was haunting me. In that very moment, the music stopped. The doll's eyes seemed to widen, and I swear I heard a whisper. Terrified, I dropped the doll and ran straight out of the room. Eventually, I managed to get rid of the doll, but I never returned to that attic. And I swore to myself that I'd never bring home a strange toy ever again. To this day, I can still hear that haunting melody sometimes echoing through my room. It was a cold, blustery night, and I was home alone while my family visited relatives. The wind howled outside, and the eerie creaks of the old house seemed to echo in the silence. I settled in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, attempting to shake off the uneasy feeling that I felt in my gut. As I scrolled through my phone, I heard a loud thump come from the hallway upstairs. I shrugged it off, convincing myself that this was just the sound of the house settling. But then came another sound. Soft, whispering laughter. It sent a chill down my spine. I clutched my phone tighter, trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination. After a few moments of silence, I decided to grab a snack from the kitchen. As I walked down the hallway, I noticed the lights flickering. My heart was racing, but as I reached for the light switch, the lights went out completely, plunging me into absolute darkness. I fumbled for my phone, using its light to guide me. When I entered the kitchen, I felt a really cold breeze push past me. I turned around, but there was absolutely nothing there. Just as I was about to shrug it off again, I heard the laughter, but this time it was closer. It was high-pitched and mischievous, echoing through the empty rooms. Panic started to set in. I grabbed the knife from the counter, feeling foolish but desperate. I crept back towards the stairs, my heart pounding. Each step I took felt like an eternity. As I reached the bottom of the staircase, I froze. A shadow flickered at the top of the stairs, and I could have sworn I saw a small figure dart into the bathroom. The laughter grew louder, a haunting melody that echoed in my ears. Summoning all my courage, I called out, "Who's there?" My voice trembled, swallowed by the darkness. No answer came, just silence. I took a deep breath and slowly climbed the stairs, each step creaking ominously under my weight. When I finally reached the hallway, the bathroom door was ajar. I slowly pushed it open with trembling hands, the light from my phone illuminating the empty space. The mirror was fogged up, and in the steam I saw it written, "You shouldn't be alone." I stumbled back and my heart was racing. Suddenly the door slammed behind me. I was trapped. I pounded on the door, panic rising within me. Laughter returned, echoing in my mind, relentless and mocking. Finally, with a surge of adrenaline, I kicked the door open and ran down the hall. The laughter following me like a ghostly shadow. I bolted for the front door, throwing it open and stepping out into the icy night air. I didn't stop running until I reached the neighbour's house, breathless and terrified. I was too scared to ever be alone in that house again. The laughter still echoes in my mind, a chilling reminder that sometimes being alone can invite more than just solitude. That's all for today. I really hope these stories give you nightmares. If you enjoyed the video, please help me out with the algorithm by clicking the thumbs up and subscribing to the channel for a feast of grim and grisly content. As always, thanks for watching. I'm your host, Severed Soul.